So let me begin by welcoming the two folks from IAG. Jen Mitchell is Executive General Manager, Claims, and she's responsible for commercial claims as well as IAG's workers' compensation business in Victoria and New South Wales. She joined IAG through CGU in 2010 as Victoria State Manager of Workers' Comp and was appointed Head of Workers' Compensation Victoria and New South Wales in 2012. With a strong background in workers' compensation and financial services, Jen has more than 20 years of senior HR experience and many years of senior management experience, including 5 years with Citibank. Gillian Folks is Group General Manager for IAG Centre of Excellence, People and Culture. The Centre of Excellence is also known as the Hub and provides group-wide strategy and frameworks in the area of talent, succession, diversity and inclusion, culture, reward, benefits and recognition. Gillian has more than 20 years' experience across retail, marketing, insurance and financial sectors and has formed part of several executive teams both locally and internationally. Please join me in welcoming Jen and Gillian to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people and to pay my respect to their elders, both past and present. I'm Jen Mitchell and I have the privilege to lead 1,200 claims professionals for IAG, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today to talk on a topic that I'm extremely passionate about, which is culture.
Thanks, Jen. Good morning, everybody. I'm Gill, and like Jen, equally delighted to be here today and particularly pleased to share our story with Jen. So Jen and I this morning will spend some time sharing the IAG story and the passion that we have for helping make your world a safer place. So as a business, we committed to creating Asia Pacific's most loved, most inventive and most successful insurer. Each year, the national cost of extreme weather events totals around $6.3 billion. These costs are borne by individuals, they're borne by businesses, and they're borne by communities, both directly and indirectly. The insurance sector in Australia is a major employer, responsible for the employment of around 60,000 people, and has $48.5 billion worth of insurance policies, covering some 85 million risks. Insurance Australia Group, or IAG, is Australia and New Zealand's largest general insurance company, for which Jen and I have the privilege to work for. Since 1851, our business has helped people recover from natural disasters, accidents, and loss. Today at IAG, we employ more than 15,000 people across our operations. Last year, we insured more than $2 billion worth of assets on behalf of millions of customers, and we paid more than $8.7 billion in claims. But with this upward trajectory, it hasn't always been an easy one for us at IAG. It's fair to say that IAG has been confronted with some significant challenges, including the GFC and the summer of natural disasters in 2011. It was against this backdrop that we recognised the need to change and to make some tough decisions if we wanted to go successfully into the future. As part of our expanding thinking, we held the first IAG Risk Summit in 2012. We were joined by over 80 people from many walks of life who shared a passion for risk and the impact that it has on our communities and on us as individuals. For true systemic change to really occur, we had to ensure that both the public sectors, the NGOs, government, and the communities that we worked with and that are around us were all pulling in the same direction. This was absolutely critical as we moved forward. So together we identified that we needed to help create more resilient communities that were prepared for and more effectively equipped to manage risk. From here we reviewed our strategy. We simplified our operating model and narrowed our focus to the things we needed to do that would make a true difference. Just over 18 months ago, we began thinking about why we exist as an organisation, how we moved beyond selling just insurance policies, how we moved beyond just fulfilling claims. How did we as an organisation find something that people could embrace and connect to more broadly? How could we go to that next level? We needed a shared understanding of why our organisation existed. So to this end, we focused on re-energising our purpose, a purpose that could act as a lens, a way that we could guide and inform decisions across the organisation, both at an organisational level, at a team level, and an individual level. So what was this? This saw the move to us introducing our purpose within our organisation, which was we exist to help make your world a safer place. Today at IAG, our CEO, our executive, our 15,000 employees, we believe that it is our responsibility as an organisation and as an industry leader to use our influence to help build safer, stronger, and more confident communities. This understanding has a positive flow-on effect to the way we go about our jobs every day. Clarity of purpose brings sharp focus for people. It ensures that when people come to work every day, they understand the purpose, they connect with that purpose, and we all pull in the same direction. So Jen's going to share with you, it's finally Jen's turn, so Jen's going to share with you some stories that bring to life how as an organisation we've implemented purpose and how we've enabled that to be meaningful and come to life.
Thanks, Gill. So as a business, we've always taken enormous pride in doing all we can to help our customers in their time of need. It's an absolute privilege to be able to help our customers because often when we're talking to them, they are at their most vulnerable. I thought I'd share a story with you from when I was looking after solely our workers' comp business, and I was spending time with my twin nephews, who at the time were about 15, and one of them said, Jen, what is it that you do at work? And I said, well, remember the other day you were in a rugby scrum and you broke your mate's nose by mistake and how bad you felt? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, imagine if that person was actually your employee and you could have spent some money that would have helped them be safer at work, but you'd chosen not to. And then as a result of something that you hadn't done, they lost their hand or their arm in an industrial accident, and how you would feel. And he said, oh, that'd be pretty bad. And I said, well, one of the things that I do is I lead a team of people who help people when that happens. So we help the worker and we help the employer get over the guilt that they feel so that people can come back to work and continue to work together. He said, gee, that sounds really interesting. And his twin got his nose out of the book and he said, that's really weird. Because Dad said you work for a money-grubbing insurance company. And I think that is probably a popular perception of the insurance industry, and people fall into the insurance industry. But the people who fall into the insurance industry and stay there realise that we in fact do some really great things, and we actually have, I think, probably the best job in the world because we actually are able to help people. We're not selling cigarettes, we're doing something meaningful. So let me share a case study of the recent tragic events on the east coast of New South Wales where tragically a number of people lost their lives. As a result of those weather events, we've been working with the communities to try and help them rebuild. not just from the physical loss of homes, but obviously from losing members of their community. And it's the way that those conversations are handled. That's not about processing a claim, that's about showing empathy and getting things done. But equally, empathy is useless if we don't actually manage the claims quickly and efficiently and effectively. So traditionally, when you have a major weather event like that, it takes a long time for the claims to get resolved. You can't, any of you who run large businesses will know that you can't staff your business to deal with that kind of influx. So we got a bunch of people together and said, we really need to do better with the management of large events such as this, and what can we do to do this faster and smarter for our customers? And we set ourselves a target of managing the 50,000 claims that were received over the course of less than a week, which is the biggest event that we've had since the hailstorm of 1999. Who would have thought that hailstorms are actually harder on insurance companies than fires and flood? But it was a massive event, but we put a bunch of people together and we worked really collaboratively, and we were able to close 90% of the claims within 90 days, which is a phenomenal effort. The 10% that aren't closed because we're not trying. It's just, if something's flooded, if a house is flooded, you can't retail until it's dried out. And it's been a pretty cold winter, so we haven't yet been able to retail. So those claims are not closed because we haven't been efficient, effective. It's just we have to wait in some circumstances for the building to be ready to be repaired. But what is really great about that story is that 90% of our customers are able to get on with their lives, which is really important. Last year, as part of really getting in touch with our purpose of we help make your world a safer place, our leadership team went and had a look at the where the Melbourne or the Victorian bushfires went through in 2009, and we attended and looked at how the community is recovering from those Black Saturday fires. Now, I know a number of people in the room were probably impacted or had friends that were impacted, and certainly most of us would remember the smell and the fear we felt on that day. One of my team members was with the CFA, and he left his wife and daughter to go and fight the fires before the wind changed direction, and he was cut off from her, and for 9 hours neither knew if they were alive or not. Luckily they all were alive, but he brought to work the stress and the post-traumatic stress of that event, and his house wasn't lost. But how does a community survive and thrive with that ever-present danger and knowing that they lost their next door neighbour or they lost someone? It's really, really tough. But I think the way we as an insurance company understand the role that we have to play in that actually makes our job meaningful, and I think it makes our people more connected to our purpose, and I do think that it makes our people stay and do a good job. I thought I'd share with you David Sonter on video. He is one of our customers in the Blue Mountains.
My name's Dave Sonter from Sonter's Fern Nurseries.
Oh, I'm Val Sonter.
And I'm Val's husband.
We were burnt down in the fires of October 17, 2013.
Terribly stressful because the television was just blazing, you know, and it wasn't until I think probably 10 o'clock at night or something, was it, that you rang to say that, you know, I'm sorry, the nursery's gone.
The Blue Mountains fires made their presence felt as the haze cast an eerie gloom over Sydney. Originally, the fire came fast, fanned by strong winds and temperatures hitting the mid-30s.
It was good to finally get in touch with my dad because I'd lost phone contact with him about half an hour before, so that was really the main thing, is I wanted to make sure he was all right.
David Sonter has been too busy rebuilding his family's business to celebrate his success. But after all David has done to see it through, CGU thought he deserved to see it for himself. So we made David the surprise guest of honour at a community breakfast. Then, with Australia watching live on Sunrise, we broadcast a film made just for him.
The fire just burnt this whole part of the mountains. You can see here, this big open area.
It was probably about 10 o'clock in the morning when straight behind us over here we saw the fire and the flames coming up.
Well, yeah, it was very hard because we lost everything.
Initially, there were 2 columns of smoke here.
Black smoke. Black smoke means houses are burning.
We lost our shed and...
I lost my home in the fires as well.
But the house had already caught alight by the time he got here.
It was terrible. Sorry.
I was here at Saunders. I was down with the potting crew that day.
I rang David and he's going, you know, as usual, do what you've got to do for your family.
That was wonderful. I think he actually inside was quite sad.
I think we fared better than David. David was a bit distraught. I saw him the morning after.
And he said he wasn't going to continue. That was it. He'd call it a day.
His business was finished. He didn't think he'd be able to rebuild and recover.
But subsequently, after a few days went past and he talked to his wife and then he thought, well, it's what I do. So he's going again and the nursery's getting back on its feet.
Last Friday, we had a little staff party here just with the staff just to mark that day. And we weren't really marking the 12 months anniversary of the fire so much as saying to the staff, you know, hey, we're still here.
So we've had a lot of achievements, but boy, we've had a lot of fun, haven't we?
It's been a great ride, hasn't it?
Now, I've probably seen that video clip 15, 20 times, but it never fails to move me. And I think the reason why I always I really feel strongly about it is that David said he was going to close his business, and the people that he employed, many of whom had lost their homes, were also going to lose their job. And he chose not to close his business. And imagine the heritage of, you know, that family business closing and just that's it. He chose not to do that because of the support that he had from the community and from our company, and we made it easy for him to get back in the saddle, for, if you like, both physically and emotionally. And to me, that's why I think I've got the best job in the world, because we have the opportunity to really assist people in their time of need. And the reason why having a purpose of we help make your world a safer place and really encouraging our people to buy into that is that I think it empowers our people to make a massive difference in the community. So, over to you, Gill.
Okay, so as many of you will know through your own organisations and your own experience, as you bring organisations together through mergers and acquisitions, as IAG has done, with it comes bringing together of multiple cultures and different organisations that hold different things dear. So one of the challenges we faced is how do we bring these cultures together, and how do we decide what's important to keep and what's important to grow? So as we bring together different organisations, it's remained really critical to us that we show a respect and an understanding of the cultures of those organisations and really think about what we need to strengthen and which elements are really important to future success. Across the group, we've worked with Human Synergistics for many years and have used their OCI, OEI, LSR tools. But particularly when we look at culture, what's been particularly important for us as an organisation is to get really clear about what it is we aspire to. So in our journey to becoming purpose-led as an organisation, truly understanding what we aspire to from a cultural perspective is really critical. And we've then used the tools to really try and understand where are we today, where are we going, and what does that gap look like? And then how do we put actions together, and how do we think about how we make that shift and how we close that gap down? So that's been part of our cultural journey over the last few years. We thought it might be useful to share with you a few examples of how we've brought that to life across our organisation, because I know many of you sitting here will have the same grapples and the same challenges that we face. So hopefully those can add some value for you. And I'll let Jen share the first story.
Thanks, Gill. So one of the businesses I lead is the Victorian Workers' Comp business, where we are an outsourced claims and premium management provider for WorkSafe Victoria. And it's a pretty tough gig because you are dealing with people who are in pain, who are in straitened financial circumstances, in many cases who are blaming someone, and we're trying to get those people back to work, and not everybody wants to get back to work, and not every employer wants their person back to work, strange as that may seem. So it is a challenging area to work in, and about 5 years ago we had turnover in our first year of employment of 30%. And I think we all know that if you have turnover like that, that it's very, very hard to run a successful business. But equally, the pressure that puts on the people who aren't leaving because they're having to do other people's work. So we actually did two things. We actually asked our people to work with us on solving the problem, and we actually asked our people if they wanted us to performance manage people who had an attitude problem as opposed to a skill issue. And I can remember asking people to put their hand up and say, do you want us to performance manage people? Because when you have really high turnover, I think what we all do is think somebody who's doing half a job is better than somebody doing no job at all. So I actually said to people, do you want us to performance manage those people who really shouldn't be here? And what's really interesting is that I put my hand up and every person in the room put their hand up. Now, some of those people were the people who needed performance management. So I don't know whether it was peer pressure about putting your hand up. But I think as HR practitioners, often we think that if you actively performance manage your people, that's going to have a negative impact on your culture. And what we categorically found was that it had a positive effect because people knew that they only had to do their job. So we also asked them to participate in a psychometric benchmarking exercise so that we could work out what the ideal recruit looked like. So, because we were just hiring people that perhaps weren't a perfect fit. And we made it optional, but 80% of our people agreed that they were prepared to go through this psychometric testing exercise, and we used soft and hard data to categorise our people into high-performing and mid-performing. By this point, we didn't have many low-performing people left. And as a result of that, our turnover in the first year has gone from 30% to under 10%. And that's made, as you can imagine, a massive impact on the floor because people are only doing their own job and not the job of people next to them. We also started working with the results from the OEI survey through Human Synergistics and realised that we needed to address lower levels of employee involvement. Now, I noticed there's some people in the room who come out of the Vic Workers' Compensation System, and they would understand that it is very difficult not to have a perfectionistic culture where you're measured very hard against KPIs. But we invested really heavily in our leadership development, and I think that that's paid back massive rewards because people know that while we have to get things right, we don't have to get everything right. And I think that often in businesses where it's really important to get one thing perfect, that you run that whole perfectionism piece across your whole organisation. And I think what we did was work out where it actually has to be perfect and where it doesn't, and create much more wriggle room around that so that people didn't feel that they were being really closely managed at all times. So the wonderful thing about that is that we're substantially more profitable as well, and it never actually hurts to run a business that's profitable because it actually creates opportunities for our people. So not only has turnover improved and morale improved, but we're substantially more profitable. It would be helpful if no one told WorkSafe Victoria that. I'll pass over to Gill to talk about another one.
Sean in his introduction spoke about building culture one organisation at a time. I think it's in organisations possible to think about that, building culture one person at a time, one team at a time, and therefore an organisation at a time. So I do love that, by the way, Sean. So what I wanted to do is share just a slightly different story. So through bringing together organisations, we bring together different cultures. But what I've learned in my own journey is that just bringing together teams from different divisions brings together different cultures. So we found ourselves 18 months ago as we went through our operating model changes, bringing together a people and culture team. We essentially built 4 people and culture teams, but they were made up of people who came from various divisions and from different businesses. So the area I run is called the Centre of Excellence, and we refer to it as the Hub. And we like to call the people who work in there the Hubsters. So we brought together this big team of Hubsters, and they came from different divisions. And what we learned quite quickly is that whilst people connected with the purpose, they actually had slightly different cultures from their various businesses. So how did we create this new culture that everybody felt a part of? So a few months into having established that team, we ran an OCI and OEI survey and realised that maybe the things we thought were working really well were maybe not working as well as they could for the people in the team. So what did we learn? We learned that, lost my place. I have to wait 2 minutes whilst I find it. Where am I?
On the next page.
I'm on the next page. Have I moved on that much, Jen? Okay, so what we learned is that whilst we thought communication was efficient and effective and available, actually it wasn't always relevant to them. So it was coming, but how relevant was it and how timely was it? We also discovered that people's jobs, whilst they did them and they loved them, they didn't always feel a really strong connection to how that job they did actually delivered the organisational strategy or purpose. And what else we discovered is that whilst we'd built this new shiny team and department, that we'd siloed people. So suddenly people who were used to being part of quite big operational teams really close to the business, suddenly we were in a team full of specialists. And we'd siloed people. So the joy that these people were getting from their previous roles, where they were able to have full access to a lot more, was very narrow. So we were building a siloed culture, which, as you all know, is never a really good thing for people in those roles. So we found ourselves challenged by how do we move the dial? How do we create a culture that's more fulfilling for people, more meaningful for people, where they could connect their individual purposes with what they did every day? So what we did is we threw it out to the people as a challenge as to how they wanted to manage it. And what they came back and said to us was let this be our challenge. So we set up a people-run or volunteer group, which they called the Herbarium, no surprises there, and they undertook to really understand those culture results, to really speak to every single person on the team and understand what was really important to everybody. And just to share with you some of the things that we undertook in the team through that work group or that team of people was pulling together things like think tank sessions, which seems so obvious, but we weren't doing them at the time. And a think tank session was essentially bringing together people from across the functions where they could contribute and brainstorm and really be involved in initiatives that actually were part of other functions. So this gave them a way to feel empowered and feel like they were connected. We also pulled together cross-functional project teams, so challenged our thinking around normally project teams have all the subject matter experts in them and the stakeholders. But we went, well, actually, if we want to get more diversity of thought and more diversity of outcome, why wouldn't you build cross-functional teams? And the last thing we did many things, but the last one I'm going to share with you was around how we thought about communication. So instead of going, the email's gone, tick the box, we've communicated, we went, well, actually, how do people want to receive information? And how can that help progress our culture? So we did a number of things, but 2 that were very successful for us were pulling together monthly hub forums where we brought everybody together and we invited speakers from the business. It was quite an informal setup, but someone from the business would come and talk about something that was really topical for us. And this became a 2-way communication process, and that people we could share with the teams, but at the same time there was an opportunity for people to speak up. So what we know is to build really good constructive culture, people have to feel free to speak up, They have to have a voice, and they have to feel like that voice is heard. So those were just a couple of the things we did, and we have since reassessed that culture, the culture in that space, and we've seen a substantial shift in the constructive styles, which we're enormously proud of, as well as a decrease in the defensive styles. And that's a real tribute, not to the leadership, because the leadership were there to support, to remove boundaries, and I suppose to hear the voices of the people. That's a tribute to the people and the function who cared enough to make a difference and to build a culture that was really meaningful for them. So these, really, I suppose our journey has seen us as an organisation over the last 18 months integrate some 3,000 new people from Wesfarmers. It's seen us introduce a new operating model. It's seen us focus on getting closer to our customers and trying to leverage our scale better. It's also seen us introduce our group purpose, which is we help make your world a safer place. It's also seen us introduce our new vision and spirit, and Jen's going to talk shortly about those, which will hopefully complete the picture we're sharing with you. But through all those things, there's a culture that sits in our organisation that we need to really protect and grow and nurture. So while we have a strong commitment from our people to the transformation we're going through, there is an absolute bias for action amongst those people. There's also a foot on the brake, because for all of those of you who work in big organisations, small organisations, people don't always like change. Change can feel like that, I'm not quite there. And so there is a bit of the foot on the brake, and our challenge as an organisation is how do we reverse that? So whilst we understand this, and transformational change is not going to slow down in our industry or in our organisation, our need to build agile and resilient teams, individuals, and an organisational culture that can really flex remains absolutely paramount and important to us. So the world our employees are moving into is one that is more flexible, it is more agile, and it will need to embrace change. Jen.
Thanks, Gill. So look, there are a number of things about being purpose-led that challenge us as an organisation, because, you know what, at the end of the day, we also exist to make money for our shareholders and to create wealth for our shareholders. And sometimes there's some inconsistencies. So over the years, we've worked hard to educate our people on the circumplex and what that means and the various behaviours. And if I hear people talk about blue behaviours or green behaviours or red behaviours, one more time I think, can we move beyond that? And I think we have now. And now we describe our culture as our sense of identity and what it is that makes us special, what it is that makes IAG unique. And what we know will underpin our success is what makes us different. So we put a bunch of people together to form what we now refer to as our spirit. And we had 1,000 people work on this, and what they did was identify the essence of what it is to work at IAG. And it's captured in 3 words: closer, braver, and faster. Closer in the way we create real connections with people, braver in the way we shape the future, and faster in the way we make things happen. Now, IAG is a large organisation, so it is possible that when I said to somebody recently, I thought we were going to work faster, it's possible the person replied to me, faster for IAG, Jen, faster for IAG. But I think what we do know is that faster in particular might be an aspirational thing in our spirit, and I suspect that that might be aspirational for many of our companies. But it's what our people want. They want us to be closer, braver and faster. It explains our commitment to the way in which we interact with all of our stakeholders, being our customers, our people, our partners, community, and importantly, I think, our peers, because I think peers is often a group of people that doesn't get the same level of attention as all of our other communities that we work in. What's been really interesting is, and I think in part it was that we had 1,000 people working on this, but the way our people have embraced closer, braver and faster is well beyond our expectations. And The fact that people are saying we're not being brave enough, we're not being fast enough, I think is a really good sign, because it's really only 6 or 8 weeks since we launched this, and it's really resonated with our people. And what we all know is if you can get a message like that resonate with people, that's where you get the discretionary effort from your people, and that's where people actually enjoy coming to work, which I think it's got to be the goal for all of us. There's a slide going up showing a circumplex about flexible work arrangements, and if there is anybody who leaves this room today not having taken notice of this, there's a wasted opportunity. On the left-hand side is the culture of people at IAG who thought that they couldn't access flexible working arrangements, and on the right-hand side is the circumplex of people that felt that they could access flexible working arrangements to a very great extent. I think it speaks for itself. If we work on the assumption, I think we wouldn't be here today if we didn't believe that having a strong culture, an inclusive culture, was important. Then there's money in the bank there if you allow your people to work flexibly. It's one of the things that we are really proud of, that we have so many different ways that people can work flexibly. I'm about to pitch to my boss that I work flexibly from a beach in Bali 5 days a week. I don't have an enormously positive view about my chances of success, but what I do know is that I worked flexibly from a beach in Bali for 3 days back in April, and it made absolutely no difference to anybody. So it was my test. Wish me luck. I don't think it's going to come. But some of the things that we do in terms of helping our people work flexibly is we allow people to work from home. We allow them to work from a beach in Bali for maybe 1 or 2 days. We allow people to work part-time. We encourage people to job share. We have a lot of people leaders that are working part-time. I know people think you can't do that, but you can. People can purchase additional leave, people can take a career break. We just find ways for people to want to stay working with us because we don't want to lose that talent. It does go an enormous way to creating an inclusive culture. But some of the other things that we've done that I think have made a massive difference, and I don't have kids, but this has made a massive difference to me, and that's that we have on-site free childcare for people of school age in our major centres. Now, as somebody who doesn't have kids, this is during school holidays, okay? It's a kids' school holiday program. Now, as somebody who doesn't have kids, you might think, why does that make a difference to me? Well, it makes a difference to me because people who I need to be at work, because business deadlines don't always acknowledge school holidays. But I've had a couple of times where I've really needed people to be at work at that particular point in time, and they're able to be at work because their kids have gone into the school holiday program. And as we all know, if you're running a business, we're all running lean businesses, if people need to take the school holidays off, it's really, really hard. How do you keep within your KPIs when everybody's off during the school holidays? So even though I don't have kids, that's made a difference to me. And I will say that my best days in our company are when I go and stand. Of course, they won't let you in unless you've got a parent because of security risks. But going down and just watching the kids and seeing the energy and enthusiasm when they come up and have lunch on the floor with their parents. Another thing that we've done is create a reconciliation action plan, which has really been an important part of us embracing Indigenous people as the first Australians. And what I would say to you is that as I go around talking to my people and saying that I have not just a hope but an expectation that they will help us bring Indigenous people into our business, that people stand up straighter because they know it's the right thing to do. And I think any time we give our people an opportunity to stand up straighter is a really important part of what we do as a company. And recently we received an award for Women's Employer of the Year from ANZIIF, which we're all pretty proud of. Over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Jen. So as Jen and I come to a close, it's, as you all know, nothing stands still, and there's still lots of change ahead for us as organisations. So across the globe, what we're seeing is whole industries are being disrupted by the next big thing, which we call the big D, which is digital. So this opens up unprecedented opportunities for organisations. And at IAG, we want to be part of the 25% of organisations who proactively disrupt rather than be disrupted. We've done a significant amount of work with Corinne from Human Synergistics to work out exactly what our culture needs to do to evolve, to really embrace and operate effectively as times change and as we adopt a more digital approach to doing business. And what we know today is that we need to swiftly seize opportunities which enable us to be agile. So test and learn opportunities, fail fast, and learn to embrace and make mistakes, which are all things as an organisation we've traditionally not been particularly good at. We're a business of risk. So for us to be agile, we have to also be able to tap into knowledge in many parts of the organisation in real time. And this will challenge us on the front that free flow of knowledge or transparency is quite different to what we've done traditionally. Traditionally, we've held information tightly, and people have only worked in the space in which their role entitles them to work in. So transparency, sharing of information, and allowing people broader access to information will become critical to be agile, to be flexible, and to remain at the forefront of business. We are also encouraging our leaders to think about how they can relinquish more control to their people. How do we empower our people at the front line? How do we empower people to make more customer-facing decisions so that in real time we can, as Jen spoke about earlier, turn claims over faster and respond to the needs of our people faster? So in addition to these behavioural challenges and changes that we see in the future for ourselves, we can also accelerate change, changing the way we think about work structures. So traditionally, we've all got structures. Are those structures slowing us down? And culturally, what is the evolution of those structures? What's next for us as organisations? Ways of working, really challenging our thinking around ways of working and making sure we have a culture that embraces and is ready for that change. And at the same time, flattening structures. Flattening structures enables our people to get closer to the customer and enables us to get closer to the purpose and thereby deliver more meaningfully and significantly in the roles that we hold. So as a group, we are embracing the phrase most inventive, which forms part of our vision, with a commitment to think more creatively about the way we do business, the way we solve problems, and the way we serve our customers.
Thanks, Gill, and thank you for taking the time to listen to our story. We are passionate about creating and sustaining a business that has purpose at its core, and I think it does bring decision-making within organisations much more crisp when you go back to your purpose and when you say to your people, we want you to always make decisions from purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you.